Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If this is your first time here, my name is Craig and I live in the Philippines with my wife and son. Now, today I'm talking about age gap relationships in the Philippines or with Filipinas. Now, it's not just restricted to the Philippines, of course. You'll find in other countries in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, even Singapore, that there's a similar dynamic. So, what do you feel when you hear people talking about it? It's a kind of a difficult subject to talk about. If you are in a relationship with a younger female, be it Filipina or other. My wife is 17 years younger than me, which I don't think is a huge age gap. But the problem is you're dealing with a multitude of nationalities and cultures. For example, in the UK, back when I was younger, when I was like a teenager, it wasn't unusual if somebody was with a younger female. It was frowned upon. It wasn't very common in the UK. I don't know if it is now because I don't live there now. When I first went to Southeast Asia, I would say that was the first time I really noticed it. I was in Indonesia back in 2009, and after that I was in Singapore and then Malaysia, where I met my wife. And I remember at the time I would have been, that would have been in 2011, so 13 years ago. I was 44. I was fit. I'm not bragging here. At that time I was going to the gym. I was fit for my age. The hair thing, it's always been like that. Well, not always. But since I was about 30, my hair started thinning. So I've been shaving my head for years. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. Talking about, when I met my wife. And I remember one time, she said, we used to meet up with other Filipinas who had foreigner boyfriends or husbands, and there was an age gap. It varied, right? And I remember one day I asked my wife, I says, how come we always meet up with your friends who have foreigner boyfriends? And she said to me, sometimes, other Filipinas might look on it negatively, or it was words to that effect. So here's the thing. It's not just a Western culture thing, that maybe some people look on it from a negative point of view. I think it's a lot of nonsense myself, but I'm biased. But, live and let live. As long as each party is happy and consensual, then what's the problem? The problem is, in Western culture, it's kind of ingrained into us that it's not normal, It's and, I remember, I've got 2 daughters in the UK and I love them to bits, and they know that. And they've, they live in the UK and they've never lived overseas and immersed themselves in a different culture like I have and maybe like you have. I remember they were a bit surprised, I think that might be the right word, and a wee bit upset maybe when I told them that my wife was pregnant. Well, we weren't married at the time, almost married. But I understood it because, they haven't experienced a culture like that and for any length of time. So, it does go on, but, when you see a huge age gap, for example, a good friend of mine, is married to a Filipina, and there's a 27-year age gap. So when does it become too much? Is it even defined? How do you define it? Difficult. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think, but I don't perceive myself to be old. You might think otherwise, but I wouldn't say I acted like somebody my age, and maybe that's why. Maybe she keeps me younger. There's definitely something there from that perspective. You know, you hear about people saying, making rude remarks, or dirty old man, or she's just with him for his money and all this. That takes me on to the relationship side of it when it comes to love or money. And I've thought about this long and hard, right? Where's the difference between being married to someone your own age, and let's say that the wife isn't working and you're working? So you're effectively looking after the wife. So what's the difference? You know, I've been in that position. So people talk about transactional relationships. I'm sorry, but show me one that isn't a transactional relationship. There's always give and take in every relationship. Listen, by no means am I a relationship expert. I'm not. But I'm old enough and wise enough, and I've got the experience. So I think I'm entitled to have an opinion. There can be some issues when it comes to some interests. You know, I'm older. I've got maybe interests in other things, whatever that may be. But here's another thing that is quite relevant. I would say, not just me, I think it's widely known that women, or girls, women, whatever you want to call them, ladies, mature faster than men, boys. That's widely known, I think. Now, when they get older, as a woman from Southeast Asia, let's say she's 25, is she more mature than a 25-year-old American woman or British woman? That's one for the opinionated amongst us. My wife, before I met her, she was working overseas in Malaysia, I think from when she was 23. So how many 23-year-olds from Europe or America have gone and worked overseas on their own without knowing anybody, by the way? She went to Malaysia, she didn't know a single person. So there's definitely a maturity there. And we got on well. I think, you know, we make each other laugh. And I would say, you know, in Philippines, I would say that the women are mature for their age. They like a lot of the things that older people like. Definitely. You know, you go to anywhere in the Philippines where there's karaoke on, and you've got all the young ones singing all the old songs. It's true. The biggest thing I would say is there can be some communication problems, but that's not related to the age gap. You know, that's just a language barrier. And you know, in the Philippines, their English is excellent. And my wife's English is excellent, but I did mention once before in one of my videos that there was a miscommunication one time when we were building the roof deck on top of our house, and I was overseas, and my wife was handling it, and she sent me a message and she said, do you still want the window? I said, yeah, of course. So we had basically, sorry if I'm repeating myself here, and you've heard this before, but basically we've got the back wall, two side walls, and the roof, and the front of it is all open, and we look out onto Mayon volcano. It's a cracking view. And I said, yeah, of course, still want. So I said, let me know how much it is. So she says, I'll I'll ask the guys to get me a quote, the guys that were building it. And she sent me a quote, and it was like approximately, I can't remember exactly, but I think it was about 23,000 pesos. And I thought to myself, that's a lot for a window. But I didn't want to say anything because, I wanted her just to get on with it, and, I trusted her, of course I did. So anyway, when I did go over, and it was finished at the time, it had just been completed, more or less. And I went up onto the roof. We've got like a steel staircase which goes from the spare bedroom up to the roof. And I got up there and I looked. And there was windows all the way around. And it's because in the Philippines and in a lot of places in Southeast Asia, they don't put the S on at the end, So like if you go to a restaurant, whether it's in Malaysia or Philippines or anywhere, Indonesia, you'll see fish and chip on the menu, not fish and chips. So there can be some miscommunication, especially if you're apart, like we were. But getting back to the age gap, from the man's perspective, I would say it's a good thing. You might be laughing about that, but why do I say that? Because from my point of view, it keeps me younger. She keeps me on my toes. I want to be healthier. I want to be fitter. So now that I mention it, I'm on a bit of a health kick at the moment. I'm trying to lose some weight and get fitter. So that's one thing. But I'd be interested to hear from you guys how you feel about it. There was one thing that happened to a good friend of mine. It was a long time ago now. Back in, I think it was back in 2012. An English guy. He's a construction manager, and he's married to an Indonesian girl. And there's quite a big age gap. I'm not sure how much it is. It's probably about 30 years. Yeah. And I think they were in Hong Kong. They went everywhere together, and the big man got a lot of time off work. So, plus he was in between jobs quite a few times. So they went to Hong Kong and they stayed in a top hotel. I can't remember which hotel it was exactly, but he told me the story. That they were checking in the hotel, and they said to his wife, "Yeah, you'll need to sign the register." And she was confused. "What do you mean?" Alice says, what do you mean the register?" They thought she was on the game, and he was taking her, into the hotel. And he gave them a piece of his mind, obviously, but that's something that can happen in Southeast Asia. I don't think there's much else I can talk about the age gap, except live and let live. If you're happy, why should anyone else care? All right, guys, cheers.